We have Steelers breaking news here on a Tuesday night as Jaylon Smith, the inside linebacker, former Pro Bowler for the Dallas Cowboys, is going to be signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers here after Elandon Roberts' pectoral injury in Week 16 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Welcome into Steelers Talk, a special breaking news edition here. I'm coming to you from my home office, I guess you want to call it, here at my apartment here in Dallas, Texas. So thank you guys for joining me here for my instant reaction. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button, because no matter where I'm at, whether I'm at the office, in studio, whether I'm here at home, whether I'm on vacation, if breaking news happens for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're going to be right here with you guys with the video. So we're going to have you guys covered every single time. You're not going to get this level of dedication anywhere else on Steelers YouTube. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now for premium Steelers content and breaking news action all season long. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. Jaylon Smith, man, this is a pretty big name to land here with just 2 weeks left to go in the 2023 NFL season. Smith's definitely been around. He's been with a bunch of different teams. He started his career, of course, with the Dallas Cowboys. He was with them for quite a while. Went to a Pro Bowl back in 2019, which really isn't all that long ago. I mean, it is before COVID, so COVID feels like forever ago. But you look at a guy like Jaylon Smith. Somebody this year spent most of this season with the Las Vegas Raiders practice squad, only played in one game, got 2 tackles in that football game, had quite a few starts last year with the New York Giants, was a full-time starter for Brian Daboll's squad last year that made the playoffs. So Jaylon Smith is somebody that's played a lot of football in the National Football League. He's got a ton of experience, and it doesn't really seem like maybe he's got the zip on his fastball anymore. He's definitely not the Pro Bowl caliber guy that he was back in 2019 with the Cowboys. But when you are kind of snake bitten, like the Pittsburgh Steelers have been this season at the inside linebacker position. First it was Cole Holcomb, then it was Kwan Alexander, and now it's Elandon Roberts. And pectoral injuries, those things can be pretty nasty, man. And even though nothing's come out officially saying that Elandon Roberts is out for the rest of the season, it definitely does not look good for Roberts to come back this year, barring some sort of playoff run for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And even then, pectoral injuries can definitely linger. So it seems like Mike Tomlin, GM Omar Khan, wanted to make a move here for somebody with experience, somebody that's played in really big-time football games in his career. And Jaylon Smith is definitely used to this type of stage, all right? So if he has to go out there and play meaningful football for this Pittsburgh Steelers team that is just on the brink, potentially, of a playoff berth here in 2023, I think that Jaylon Smith is the type of guy that's not going to be completely swamped by the moment. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been adding some of these types of guys to their roster over the last several weeks as they've been dealing with injuries at this position, right? They've added guys like Blake Martinez and Miles Jack and Michael Walker and all these different guys that they've brought in. And right now, they definitely have a rotation going between Michael Walker, Miles Jack. Those guys got most of the snaps when Elandon Roberts went out last week against the Bengals. Miles Jack actually played pretty darn well, had a big sack. Mark Robinson is another guy, that's been getting in the rotation. And now Blake Martinez, Mike Tomlin listed him by name during his press conference this week as somebody that could see more playing time. Martinez played a little bit earlier this season, really did not play well, which is why we haven't really seen him on the field since. But now that you add Jaylon Smith, we haven't heard much word on if it's going to be practice squad or if it's going to be active roster. I'm sure we're going to hear more about that. We might even hear about that by the time this video comes out. I'm literally just recording this as I'm getting the news as it's breaking. But Jaylon Smith, definitely the type of guy that can come in, provide some experience. Now, how ready is he going to be to come in and play NFL football? I mean, obviously he's been on the Raiders practice squad since I believe November is when he was cut, late November. So he's definitely still in football shape. But the question is, how fast is it going to be a transition for him to be ready to play football football and meaningful football at that for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the inside linebacker position. I'm going to let you know kind of my prediction and my thoughts for how this whole Jaylen Smith thing is going to work out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will we see him on the field even as early as this week? I'll let you know that in just a second. But first, check out our friends at PrizePicks. It's the sponsor of today's video. You can check them out at prizepicks.com. prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. I love using PrizePicks to kind of spice up my NFL game days. I mean, NFL football is great, but to make it even better, and if you know some football, if you know ball, you can definitely make some money with PrizePicks. All you do is pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll get more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you make 25 times your money on any entry. It really is fantastic, guys. So check it out now, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. And now let's dive a little bit into what I think is going to happen with Jaylen Smith here over the next week or so, heading into a potential playoff run. I really don't see him being a contributor this week for the Steelers at inside linebacker. I really do expect Myles Jack to play a really significant role as the green dot in this defense this week. I do think Mykal Walker and Mark Robinson are guys that will probably rotate in. We might even see a little bit of Miles Killebrew get a little bit of action at linebacker a little bit. But, you know, also Blake Martinez is another guy to kind of look out for to potentially get in the rotation. But I just don't think Jaylen Smith is going to be able to come in on a Wednesday, learn the entire Steelers defensive playbook, even though, you know, he's been in the league for a while. He probably understands the coverages, but he probably doesn't understand the verbiage that the Steelers defense specifically uses. So that's going to take a little bit of time to learn. I think it's going to take a little bit more than less than the week he's going to have to prepare for this New Year's Eve matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. And honestly, I do not trust Jaylen Smith to go out there and play good football for the Pittsburgh Steelers with this little time to prepare. So my best case scenario for Jaylen Smith here is that he's good to go and he can be a little bit of a contributor for that season finale against the Baltimore Ravens. And then if the Steelers do win out, and listen, I do think, I've been saying it on the show for probably the last week and a half or so, I think it's a definite possibility that the Steelers end up winning out here, because this Seattle team is definitely vulnerable. Even though, you know, you're going to Seattle, it's a tough place to play. This Seattle Seahawks team is not very good, man, in my opinion. You look at the trends, they're bottom half of the league in just about every single important metric that you look at. So I think that this is a very beatable Seahawks team. And then next week, if the Ravens beat the Dolphins this week in week 17, they have the number 1 seed locked up. So they're not going to want to really play a whole lot of their starters. They might take it a little bit easy, even though they are going up against the arch rival Steelers. I do think Lamar Jackson might not play. Maybe Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., all their really good players may not play next week. So it's very possible, in my opinion, for the Steelers to win out. And if that happens, Jaylen Smith could be a very big pickup for the Steelers in terms of a potential playoff appearance here. You could be ready for that first playoff game in the wild card round. And if they continue to win football games, even in the playoffs, I mean, Jaylen Smith is just going to grow and grow and grow in this Steelers defense. So having a guy like this with experience, with playoff experience, I think is definitely going to help this Steelers inside linebacker group. I mean, it definitely doesn't hurt to put players that have been to Pro Bowls in the past on your roster. I don't really expect to see much from him this week. I do think it's probably going to be more Myles Jack and Mykal Walker once again at the inside linebacker position, at least in terms of this week versus the Seattle Seahawks. But this is a very intriguing move by GM Omar Khan and head coach Mike Tomlin to bring in a nice hardy veteran here in Jaylen Smith. And when I think of Jaylen Smith, I think mostly run-stuffing inside linebacker, kind of a bigger guy, 6'2", over 220 pounds, is a pretty darn good athlete, or at least he was back in his prime. So it's definitely going to be an interesting thing to watch unfold here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Definitely a cool storyline here, bringing in a guy like Jaylen Smith, a bigger name, right at the end of the 2023 season. So this is something that's definitely going to be developing throughout the week. Coop and I, we're going to be going live tomorrow for our Steelers Talk live show, starting at, I believe, 5 p.m. Eastern Time is when we're going to be going live tomorrow. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button to join us for our live show tomorrow. We're going to be having a mailbag, so make sure you guys get your questions ready to go for tomorrow evening. And then also we got our Steelers Talk live watch party on Sunday afternoon, New Year's Eve. It's going to be an absolute party. It looks like Mason Rudolph's going to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Mike Tomlin was playing pretty coy about the idea of potentially starting Kenny Pickett if he's healthy. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button to get all those updates throughout the week. The Steelers are really trying to get that last little push towards the playoffs. So we're going to be documenting every piece of that journey here throughout this week, next week, and then potentially even into the NFL playoffs. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. We'll be back in studio tomorrow for the Steelers Talk live show. I'll see you guys then. And until then, here we go, Steelers.